folks. This is Ask a Kid. Today my talk is about the Odyssey. It is a story/poem written by Homer. No, not Homer Simpson, silly. This was another guy. He was a Greek poet and story writer who lived many years ago in the Greek era. The story is about Odysseus, his son Telemachus, and his wife Penelope, and many angry gods and monsters. The story takes place after the Trojan War. Everyone thinks Odysseus is coming home. In the meanwhile, Telemachus is about 20 years old and still living with his parents. There's also 12 suitors who are also living there and really don't like him. They're trying to woo Odysseus' wife, Penelope, to marry them. In the meanwhile, Odysseus is stuck on a magical island in the middle of nowhere called odyssey. Athena, who admired Odysseus' bravery and courage in the Trojan War, asks Zeus to send Hermes to make the nymph Calliope, who is on the island with Odysseus, to let him go because she's kind of in love with him, more or less. In the meanwhile, Poseidon is absent, which is good because he would probably ask Zeus to smite Odysseus for him because he doesn't really like Odysseus after he pretty much blinded his son, who is a Cyclops. Anyway, in the meantime, again, Athena goes to Telemachus dressed as a family friend and says, "Go and find word of your father. You might hear something in Sparta." Calliope lets Odysseus go finally. He goes and builds a raft. Then Poseidon comes back and says, "Hey, what's this little guy still doing on my turf?" He wrecks Odysseus' raft, and then he has to swim for at least 2 days to the island of Cytherea, where he sleeps. In the morning, some maidens find him on the beach after they get messages in their dreams from Athena saying that they must go to the beach as they will find something there. He then crashes at the palace and he has a pretty good time concealing his identity, but then there's a Trojan-themed play and he gets a bit emotional and he's a little meltdown and he gets busted. He tells the people his story and it kind of goes like this. They were heading back after the Trojan War and they tried to raid the Ciconians, but they got their butt kicked by the Ciconians and then they got blown to the land of the Lotus Eaters, where the Lotus Eaters gave his men lotus plants to eat, which drives them kind of mad and removes any thought of them wanting to go home until Odysseus he has to whip them and make them get back on the boat. Then they get blown to Polyphemus' island, where Polyphemus the Cyclops lives. They then go into his cave, eat all his food thinking no one is home, Polyphemus comes home, and him being a Cyclops, he returns the favor and eats some of Odysseus' men. Odysseus gets kind of tired of this happening every night, so eventually he gets a very sharp stick and makes the Cyclops drunk on wine and stabs him in the eye, blinding him. Unfortunately, Poseidon, who happens to be Polyphemus' daddy, gets grumpy as he sees Odysseus go and blows up some of his ships. Then they get blown to Helios' island. Helios is the god of the wind, and he gives Odysseus a bag of wind. He is told not to release the wind, otherwise big trouble. Anyway, just as Iphasia, his homeland, comes into view, the greedy men open the bag while Odysseus is sleeping, thinking it's full of gold and treasure. They then get blown all the way back to Ilios, and this time he says he won't help them. Then they get blown onto the shore of Sisera's island, and she's a witch, and she turns a large portion of Odysseus' men into pigs. But luckily Hermes gives him a magic flower, which makes him immune to her magic. He stops her magic show pretty fast and forces her to turn the men back into humans. She then gives them food and wine and guides them on their way. Then, as she told them, they must go to the most western harbor in the world, where Odysseus sacrifices a lamb and meets the spirit of Tiresias, a priest. The priest tells them that no matter what, they must not eat any sacred cattle, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to say. They then go past the Sirens' Island. He's a pretty big fan of their music, and they've worked up quite a reputation as demonic women who make men go mad and drown themselves. And he wants to hear their music because apparently it has life-saving properties hidden inside of the song. So he says to the men, "Tie me to the mast and make sure I don't come down. Don't let me come down. Okay, don't cut me loose, whatever." And then they plug their ears with wax, and while he's screaming, "Lay down!" while he listens to the siren songs, they head off, and finally they get past. Then they pass Scylla and Charybdis, the giant six-headed monster, and the whirlpool. Scylla eats six of the men. The troops are dwindling, but they manage to row on. They land on Therentia. Then they eat the sacred cattle of Helios against the instructions of Tiresias. Then Helios throws a bit of a temper tantrum and asks Zeus if he can smite all of Odysseus' men. Only Odysseus is left, and he washes upon the shores of Ogygia. After the people have heard Odysseus' story, they decide they will help him, and they sail him to a harbor in Iphasia. Unfortunately, Poseidon turns their ship to stone for helping Odysseus, because he's kind of still a bit grumpy. Then Athena tells Odysseus to go to the swineherd Eumaeus. She disguises him as a beggar. Then she goes to Telemachus on his way back from Sparta. That she tells him that he must go to the same swineherd, but must avoid the ambush by the suitors. He does both and manages to survive. He sees his father and recognizes him. Then they plan on how to kill the suitors. The next morning they go to the castle, where Penelope tests the suitors. They think Odysseus is a beggar, and they're not very kind to him. They kind of throw their kitchen utensils and also a footstool at him. Penelope says, "Whoever can shoot an arrow from my husband's bow through the curve of all the axes and hit the mark will be my husband." The suitors can't even string the bow, and Odysseus pretty much nails it. Then he takes off his robes and shoots all the suitors. Penelope is still a bit wary, and she tests him one final time. She says to him, "If you are my husband, then please go get our bed in our room. Odysseus says, sorry, I can't really do that because I made our bed out of an oak tree which is still growing in the ground. Bam! Then she's like, oh yay, it's you! And then we live happily ever after. The end. So folks, that is the Odyssey. I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe, like, or whatever you really want to do. Bye!